Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Shannon and I'm a pet portrait and wildlife artist and I specialise in coloured pencils. So my day-to-day working life consists of creating commissions for pet owners all around the world, working on YouTube and Patreon videos, creating original artwork and also running an online shop where I sell my own products such as bookmarks, greeting cards and prints. I share a lot of my life here on YouTube, but one thing I haven't really delved into is my journey getting here. So let's go back to where it all started. So I've enjoyed drawing pretty much my whole life. As soon as I was old enough to draw, I was drawing anything that I could think of. A lot of the time I draw my toys, like my Polly Pockets, Bratz dolls, all kinds of stuff like that. And my family noticed how much I enjoyed drawing, so one day my granddad bought me a very special present which sort of planted the seed and got me started on this whole journey. But before we go into that, I just want to talk a little bit about my granddad because he's been a huge inspiration to me and he's the reason why I love the subject matter that I do. So he was a wildlife warden at our local country park. He worked with animals and he was very knowledgeable about them. I used to go to work with him sometimes during the school holidays and he'd show me how to clean out the harvest mice enclosures. There were all sorts of different animals there that you could go and look at. And I just remember really enjoying those days that I'd spend with him. He used to also rescue a lot of animals at home, so his kitchen was always full of bats, hedgehogs, all sorts of different stuff. There was one that I really took a shine to. It was a swift that he rescued, and when they're injured and they land on the ground they can't get back up again, so he had to look after it for quite a while. And I remember it used to latch onto my t-shirt there and I'd be feeding it and stuff, and then he took me with him when it was ready to be re-released and he threw it up into the air and it just flew off and it was just amazing. It taught me so much about animals. I used to go around to his house and he'd get all these little microscopes set up and he'd show me owl pellets and we'd look through and try and figure out what animals they were based off the bones that were in there. So yeah, it's a big reason why I am so interested in wildlife and stuff like that. So when he bought me that special present, it was where I really started to combine my love for animals and drawing together. So what he bought me was this book and it is Drawing Animals. And I remember I was just obsessed with it. I used to spend hours and hours drawing all the little animals from the book. I only used graphite to begin with. I didn't use any colour at all. But it was a really good way to learn about all the shading and the shapes and the proportions and stuff. So yeah, I used to draw loads and loads of different drawings in these little sketchbooks. I was really into that when he got me that. So this sort of enjoyment of drawing animals continued through school. I chose to do GCSE art at school and I remember I just wanted to draw animals all the time. In my final project where you got to choose your own theme, I chose animal eyes and just drew loads of different types of animals. I really enjoyed art at GCSE. I got an A star. It was something that I considered doing as a job, but I didn't really know what I would do with it. So when I went to college, I chose fine art as an A level, along with media studies and ICT. So a little bit of a mixed bag. But yeah, I just wanted to do something quite creative. I found that I didn't really enjoy art at A level personally. I found that it was all about the analysis and the writing element, which wasn't really for me. I just wanted to create pretty pictures, realistic drawings of things, and that really wasn't the sort of stuff they wanted us to do. I think I kind of lost my interest in art at an educational level when I went to college. I also didn't really get a chance to draw animals at college. They were very strict about the themes and the subject matter that we drew. We did a lot of still life, which was alright. I didn't hate it, but I think truly I just wanted to draw animals. So in my spare time outside of college, I used to just draw animals for my own enjoyment. I'd draw my own pets. I had 4 cats at the time, I think, and I used to draw pictures of them all the time. And then one day my mum and dad were so proud of these drawings that I created that they took the drawings into work. And then one of my mum's friends asked if I would draw her dog for her if she paid me, and I remember being completely taken aback that somebody would pay me money to do something that I enjoy doing anyway. And I had no idea how much to charge for something like that. I'd never done anything like that before, so I had a chat with my parents and we decided I would charge £20, I think it was, and it was a graphite drawing of a dog looking out of a little window in a barn. And I remember that drawing because it was such like a significant moment for me, and that was technically my first ever commission. Then after that I shared some pictures to Facebook. It was just my personal Facebook page, but I kept getting a few commissions through here and there, mostly from like my mum and dad's friends and stuff, people we knew. But you've got to start somewhere, and I was just blown away that people would pay me money to do this. So because I didn't enjoy art at college, I ended up getting a B, which is still good, but it wasn't something that I wanted to pursue anymore. So I decided to do something a little bit different at university. So I opted for what I thought would be more of like a exciting, glamorous kind of career. So I did fashion marketing at the University of Leeds. For me, this felt like a career that I could still be creative in, but there was a much clearer career path to like jobs that I could actually do coming out of it. This all came about because at the time it was when YouTube was starting to become a thing and all the fashion influencers were making videos. Very, very early days, but I used to watch them and I'd be so interested in the idea of working behind the scenes on something like that, like working for a fashion brand and being part of this like fun creative industry. And I really liked the idea of moving to the city and becoming some sort of, I don't know, I was very influenced by The Devil Wears Prada as well, I think, for some reason. I did really enjoy my degree. I did get a lot out of it. It brought me out of my shell a lot. I became much more independent. I was a very, very introverted, shy person beforehand. I'm not saying that I'm not now. I still am very shy, especially if I'm meeting new people, but I felt like I was able to put myself out there more. We did these presentations at the end of every project and I remember absolutely dreading it, but I got through it and I did it, and I can't say that I enjoyed it, but it was just little things like that that really helped to like shape me more as a person. I would never have done that previous to going to university. So we also did a lot of classes with Photoshop, InDesign, all these creative programs that have actually helped me to get to where I am now. I think it's really important to learn at least the basics of this kind of stuff if you're trying to get into an art career. So all throughout university, I carried on working on pet portrait commissions in my spare time. I even started dabbling with coloured pencils at this point too. I bought a set of Prismacolors and I did a portrait of my cat Charlie for my dad's birthday. So that was my first ever coloured pencil drawing. Then I started to increase my prices a little bit. I think I started charging £50 for an A4 and £60 for like a slightly bigger size. This is where I started to get them from people I didn't know, people that weren't just like friends of friends or family members or anything like that. Word of mouth was a very powerful thing. I also created my business Facebook page because I felt like I was annoying people by constantly posting art. I thought it'd be better to create a dedicated page where people who actually cared could go and follow me and see what I was up to. But yeah, these commissions were really helpful at uni because I didn't have to get a part-time job. It meant that I could just earn a little bit of money on the side and focus on my uni work. I also did create an Instagram account, but I wasn't very active on it for some reason. I struggled with the idea of doing Facebook and Instagram. Pretty much focused on Facebook, so I kind of regret not doing the Instagram earlier because that would have been a big help to me now. But I was just trying to do what I could, and I just sort of carried on with that all the way to the end of my degree, really. So when I finished university, I was lucky enough to get a job pretty much straight away. I did a week's work experience at Matalan head office straight after all my exams and coursework had finished, and they were actually looking to hire somebody soon. So they interviewed me while I was there and offered me a job. So I was the digital content coordinator, and I worked on creative briefs for email marketing, landing pages on the website. I did work on the blog and stuff, so everything that was like in the content area. I did really enjoy working there. It was a really good first job for me, and I did meet a lot of really nice people, but I couldn't help shake this overwhelming feeling that I didn't have the time to draw anymore, and it made me really sad. I used to commute about an hour and a half each way in the car, so by the time I got home I was always tired. I didn't want to do anything. So after a long hard think, I decided that I didn't think that this life was for me. I decided to get a job a little bit closer to home where I'd have a bit more free time to work on my own things. I got a job at an e-commerce company, a little bit like Shopify, Wix, that kind of thing, and I was working in marketing there as well. So still very creative, but a little bit more in like the tech industry. It wasn't my dream job by any means, but it did give me that extra bit of spare time because now I was only driving half an hour to work, so I could work on my drawings and commissions again. The whole work ethos was to help people to follow their dreams, create their online shop. They can be their own boss and work for themselves, and this obviously resonated with me quite a lot because I always had this dream that I'd love to start a business, but I didn't really know what doing until I started doing my commissions, and then it was always a bit in my mind like maybe I could make something of this, but yeah, it was all very like unknown territory to me. So I carried on working on my commissions. I put my prices up again a little bit, and I would go and work on them at home when I'd finish work. I remember being so tired and exhausted because I'd do my full day's work and then I'd go home and pretty much do that all night. And it would take me months and months to finish each commission because I was only doing like little bits here and there. Then one day I just decided to go for it. I had a chat with my parents and we sort of said, there's no time like the present to do it. I'm still living at home. I don't really have many bills. The only thing that I was really paying for was my phone, my car insurance, that kind of stuff. While I didn't have a mortgage and I had very few commitments, was in a really good position to take a risk and to just go for it. I had quite a lot of commissions booked in because it was coming up to Christmas. Yeah, I just felt like I had enough to work with for the time being. So in October 2018, I decided to leave that job and pursue my dream of becoming a pet portrait artist. I feel like I was in a very privileged position that a lot of people aren't in, where I knew that even if it all went wrong, it wouldn't be the end of the world. So I felt like I just had to go for it and make the most of this situation. We were actually moving house soon, and I kind of gave myself a little bit of an ultimatum that if it all went wrong, I would get a new job in this like new town that we were moving to. So yeah, the first couple of months went great. I was earning pretty much the same that I was earning in my full-time job because it was Christmas and I had all the Christmas commissions that people were getting for gifts and stuff. People really wanted to support me and help me out, so it went really well at first. And then naturally after Christmas, things started to quieten down, as I now know they always do. So I decided to use this time to create a website and get a little bit more professional. I felt like I needed to get a little bit more serious, so I designed a logo. It's a little sausage dog with my name underneath it, and I also started working on a website. So I chose Wix for my website provider because I liked the templates that they had. I found it easy enough to like alter the templates to make it my own, and I worked on this pretty much throughout the whole of January. My branding looked quite different then to what it does now. I feel like my style's evolved a lot over the years, but yeah, I was going for quite like a modern, trendy kind of vibe, and I just feel like it isn't really me now. I used very like dark teal colours and pink. Creating a website and branding felt like a huge milestone to me though, because it was somewhere that I could list all of the information and it just gave my business that professional look to it. I felt like I was a real serious artist now, and it saved me a lot of time. I could just send people to the relevant web pages. So having a website was all well and good, but it was an additional cost that I needed to make sure I covered, and I wasn't getting the same amount of commissions in anymore. It very much dried up post-Christmas period. I also made some business cards thinking that might help me to get more commissions, but I was very shy and nervous about like talking to people in real life, going up to them, handing them business cards. I was pretty much posting on social media every day. I was drawing things to make it look like I still had work coming in. This strategy worked well for me when I had a job and I was doing the odd commission here and there, but now that I had all this time to fill, I felt a little bit lost. I didn't really know what to do and I couldn't keep that momentum up anymore. Looking back, I think I definitely went full-time way too soon. If I had a house and bills, I don't think that would have gone very well at all. Like I said, I was in a lucky position where I didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Yeah, I didn't have any money to do anything. I didn't have any money to invest into my business. I was basically struggling to make my car payments every month. So I decided now's the time I should probably look for a part-time job. Now, I'm one of them people that I believe that everything happens for a reason. So I got onto the job websites and I found a part-time job that had only recently been posted, and it was a shop assistant job in a little homeware shop. Yeah, it sounded right up my street, so I applied for it. Got an interview pretty much straight away, and I went into the shop to go and have a little chat, and I got the job. I noticed that they were selling all these beautiful animal homewares, like cushions that had hares and cows and sheep and stuff on, so it was very much well suited to me and what I was interested in. It was working 2 days a week, so I only did Tuesdays and Thursdays. I still had my weekends free, but then I had all this time to work on my business as well. It was really good to have that little bit of steady income coming in. I could pay the handful of bills that I had, but I could also reinvest back into my business and like buy new equipment, new packaging, you know, all this kind of stuff that I couldn't really pay for before. Not only did this job keep me sane and provide me with a lot of peace of mind, but I also gained quite a valuable insight into which kind of animals were popular, you know, what people were buying, how the brands that were being sold in the shop marketed themselves, the branding, all that kind of stuff. And with it being quite a small town, the customers were really chatty, really lovely, and it gave me a little bit of a boost. I think it's really easy for people who want to start their own business to sort of shut themselves off from the rest of the world and just work in their own little room and never come out of it. But I think it's also important to always be looking for like new sources of inspiration, meeting new people, getting out there. At the end of the day, you're going to be selling your work to customers, so it's really important to be able to communicate with them well and to make sure that you're not like a complete social recluse. I actually worked in that job for quite a few years. I also worked on the social media pages while the shop was quiet, so that was fun. I felt like I was actually using a little bit of what I learned in my degree, and everything in my life just seemed to be like going hand in hand. Everything seemed to be working together and complementing each other. I started to get to grips with my business a little bit more. I worked on improving my drawing skills. I kept improving my website. I even hired an accountant and I started to send invoices, so everything was coming together. Things were getting a little bit more professional and polished. I kept adding new things to my studio, like new lighting and stuff. I improved the quality of my drawing paper, and all these little things started adding up to create a more like well-rounded business, one that was worthy of increasing prices. I also think that moving to an area that was more heavily surrounded by countryside was really beneficial for me too. Working in like a country homeware style shop, all these things sort of like shaped me as a person, and I changed the style and vibe that I was going for. I had colours in my branding to be a lot more like soft, natural greens to go for more of a country vibe. Everything that I was doing was like getting me one step closer to being the artist that I envisioned myself being. I went to see a local artist work at a little exhibition. He's called Ian Pickvance, and he asked me if I'd like to join him and put a few of my pieces up at his next exhibition, which I was so happy and excited about. So I got to work and I started creating some more original pieces with the idea to display them in front of potential art buyers and collectors. And then one day a reporter from the Lancashire Telegraph picked up on this, and I was asked if she could write an article about me and the upcoming exhibition. When the article went live, I felt like I got a lot more exposure. I had way more commission requests. It was like my first ever piece of PR. So yeah, my social media started going a little bit crazy for a while, and things just really started to pick up. And then came the dreaded lockdown in March 2020, and the exhibition was unfortunately cancelled. I kind of felt a bit like everything had come crashing down on me, and this exhibition that was supposed to get things going for me in the right direction was gone. I was absolutely gutted, and I started to just feel a little bit lost again. But I didn't want to wallow in my own sadness, and I decided that I needed to just crack on and do something else. I now had all this time to work on things that I'd never got the chance to before, things that I was waiting for the perfect time to do it, which never happens. I had a lot of questions coming through on social media about how I draw fur, how I draw whiskers, what colours I use for certain drawings, and I really struggled to sort of convey that information in a message. So I thought, why don't I start a YouTube channel? I've been thinking about it for a long time, and now is a better time than ever to do it. So I filmed my first ever YouTube video. It was a tutorial on how to draw a dog eye in coloured pencils. I'll actually link a video that I did where I talked about my YouTube journey so that you can see that in more detail. But yeah, my videos weren't great to begin with, and I didn't feel overly confident about talking on camera and stuff, but it was a good start. I kept making videos whenever I could, becoming more consistent with my uploads, and then I started posting more in-depth tutorials where I taught in real time while I was drawing, and people really seemed to enjoy those more than the sped up videos. I could talk about why I was choosing the colours that I was choosing, why I was using a lighter pressure here and a harder pressure there. Opened up this whole new way of conveying information for me. I think I realised back when I was watching all those fashion videos and wanted to work in fashion that I was more interested in the YouTube aspect of it, and I liked the idea of making videos, being a YouTuber. I think that was probably where my actual interest was lying, but hey ho, it took me a whole big journey to discover that. I think I just really enjoy the idea of creating content and helping people. Then as the world started to open up after the lockdown and I went back to working in the shop, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks just how heavy my workload was now, how much more I had to do than previously. Creating videos, especially good quality videos, is very time consuming, and I kind of made the sad decision to leave the shop and focus entirely on my business again. I kept getting a lot of questions about whether I had a Patreon channel too, which I found surprising because I thought people would be more interested in the free content. So I thought, why not give this a go? It helps to provide a personal, in-depth experience. So after contemplating it for a little bit, I filmed my first month of Patreon content and launched it in November 2020. I was really pleasantly surprised with how well it did to start with. I was so worried that I'd put all this time and effort into it and I'd get no patrons. So yeah, I had a handful of really, really nice patrons, and they seemed to be really keen to want to learn. They were really great for suggesting subjects to draw, and as I started to post more tutorials, my Patreon steadily grew, and I now had a bit more of a reliable income to work with. Then I saw Lisa, who was the girl I was working for in the shop, post a job for a social media assistant working from home with flexible hours. So I got in touch with her to see if she'd be happy for me to do it because I already knew what I was doing, I'd done it before, and it fit way better into my schedule than it working in the shop did. This meant that I didn't have as much time to work on commissions and originals though. So balancing all this Patreon, YouTube, freelance work, commissions, originals, it was just there was a lot going on. It's something that I've had to work really hard to try and figure out, to be honest. As soon as you start putting the groundwork in to build up all these different income streams, you kind of have to take a step back before you can take a step forward. So I wasn't getting the money from the commissions the same that I was before, and you put in all your time and effort into these projects that might not make you anything right now, but in the long run could become something. So you kind of have to delay that gratification and just hope that what you're working on will pay off one day. But thankfully for me, not too long after starting my Patreon in January 2021, I became monetised on YouTube, so that was another big help. I kind of felt like everything was starting to come together a little bit more now. I also started sharing loads of reels on Instagram, so that helped me to grow my audience there a little bit more. And yeah, eventually I have built my income streams up enough to move out of my parents' house and move into my own house. So I moved in with my boyfriend in September of 2022. We got a dog called Paddy. He's an English Bull Terrier, and life now consists of balancing all these different income streams, trying to pay my bills and live the life that I've always wanted to live, where I'm my own boss and I have full control over my own time. I feel like moving out and taking on responsibilities is quite daunting as a self-employed person, but it's also given me a little bit of a kick up the backside, as making an income as an artist isn't just a nice thing to do now, it's a must. I have to make money to pay my bills. This is why I don't like to rely solely on one thing, because as an artist who's worked on commissions for many years now, I know all too well that things can dry up. You can run out of work quite quickly. So I think spending this last few years branching out and trying to create different things to fall back on has been so helpful, and I would strongly recommend anyone to do the same. Overall, I would say my journey from where I started to where I am now has been a very slow one. I'm not one of those lucky people that blew up and went viral on Instagram and had commissions coming in booked up for the next 2 years after literally just starting. That really wasn't the journey that I had. But one thing that's come with a really slow, gradual journey is a depth of knowledge and experience that I wouldn't have gained otherwise. I believe it's set a bit more of like a solid foundation for me and my future. I've really had to learn everything the hard way, but by doing that I've been able to create videos such as this one, where I can help you to learn from my mistakes and avoid putting yourself in a position where you feel stuck and unable to see a light at the end of the tunnel. So I hope you have enjoyed listening to my art journey. I think sometimes it's easy to feel like you're not making any progress, but when I look back at where I was 5 years ago or even 1 year ago, I feel like I can see a huge change and I realise just how far I've come. So if you're on your own journey, just be assured that things take time, and as long as you're taking teeny tiny little baby steps, you are moving in the right direction. So just keep going, you've got this, and one day you'll look back and realise just how far you've come. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please make sure to give it a like if you did, because it really helps me out. Subscribe to see more videos like this, and I shall hopefully see you in another one soon. So bye for now.